How did JuJu Smith-Schuster go from one of the best wide receivers in the NFL to losing it all? How did he go from a Pro Bowler to publicly being mocked by teammates and fellow players? Well, we're about to uncover the truth, what they aren't telling you about the shocking rise and fall of JuJu Smith-Schuster. Since he was a high schooler, JuJu was destined to play in the NFL. As a teen, he attended Long Beach Poly, a high school that has produced dozens of NFL players like Deshaun Jackson, Mercedes Lewis, Jack Jones, and more. By the time Smith-Schuster finished high school, he was a 5-star recruit and ranked as the 21st best player in the nation, ahead of future pros like Deshaun Watson, Nick Chubb, Mark Andrews, and others. After receiving numerous offers from top college programs like Oregon, Ohio State, Alabama, Notre Dame, and others, JuJu decided to stay close to home and attend USC. Immediately, the 17-year-old freshman got playing time. In his first ever collegiate game, JuJu had over 100 receiving yards. After racking up over 3,000 receiving yards in 3 seasons at USC, Smith-Schuster declared for the 2017 NFL Draft. During the pre-draft process, JuJu was ranked as the 9th best wide receiver by Mel Kiper Jr., while Sports Illustrated had him ranked as the 4th best. On draft day, Smith-Schuster was the 6th wide receiver selected, taken 62nd overall by the Steelers in the 2nd round. The wide receivers picked ahead of him were Corey Davis, Mike Williams, John Ross, Zay Jones, and Curtis Samuel. Despite being a pretty high draft pick, JuJu started his rookie season as Pittsburgh's 5th-string wide receiver behind Antonio Brown, Martavis Bryant, Eli Rogers, and Justin Hunter. During his first ever NFL game, 19-year-old JuJu didn't see any action at the wideout position, just as a kick returner. In the Steelers' Week 2 matchup versus the Vikings, JuJu still wasn't a starter, but did see some snaps at wideout and even recorded his first career touchdown. However, when Smith-Schuster finally got his first career start in Week 8, everything changed. Earlier that week, current starter Martavis Bryant responded to an Instagram comment that said JuJu was better than him by saying, quote, "JuJu is nowhere better than me, fool." Bryant then wanted a trade and was benched, so JuJu replaced him as a starter. In that matchup versus the Lions, the rookie wideout broke out, catching 7 passes for 193 yards and a touchdown. But JuJu really made a name for himself a few weeks later, not because of his stats, but because of something he did away from the play. Vontaze Burfict had a reputation as one of the dirtiest, if not the dirtiest player in the league during the 2010s. He specifically had one of the dirtiest hits we've seen headhunting Antonio Brown, and a lot of people say this is the hit that really changed AB's life. So in a Week 13 game versus Cincy that was already getting chippy, JuJu delivered this hit versus Burfict. Yes, it was dirty, and yes, he taunted him, but a lot of fans around the league saw this play as karma. As a result, Smith-Schuster was suspended for 1 game. He apologized as well, but many people, especially Steelers fans, gained a lot of respect for the 20-year-old after the play. After a first-round playoff bye, the Steelers were set to host the Blake Bortles-led 3C Jaguars. In a high-scoring game, JuJu was held to just 3 catches for 5 yards and a touchdown. The Steelers ultimately lost, ending their season. JuJu finished his rookie year with 917 receiving yards and 8 total touchdowns. He had the 2nd most receiving yards on the team behind Antonio Brown and ended up leading all the league's rookies in receiving yards that season too. During the offseason, it was looking like JuJu was on track to be the next OBJ, a player that transcended the sport into pop culture. He joined the FaZe Clan and moved into their content house in LA. He had his own YouTube channel that he vlogged on and was appearing in many other YouTubers' videos like Danny Duncan. After Martavis Bryant was traded to the Raiders during the offseason, Smith-Schuster was named one of the Steelers' starting wide receivers entering the 2019 season. JuJu started his sophomore year on fire, recording over 100 receiving yards in each of his first 3 games. In Week 12, he had his best game of the season, hauling in 13 catches for 189 yards and a score. Despite Smith-Schuster having nearly 1,500 receiving yards and making a Pro Bowl, it was all nearly forgotten because of one play. With just over 40 seconds left in a Week 16 matchup with the Saints, the Steelers were driving down the field downfield, and on the cusp of field goal range. They needed to win this game to secure a spot in the playoffs. But when JuJu caught the ball on this slant route, he fumbled and gave the Saints the ball back. The Steelers lost the game, and ultimately that play ended up costing Pittsburgh a playoff spot in 2018. Despite the season-shattering fumble, JuJu was still voted as the Steelers MVP by his teammates after leading the squad in both receptions and receiving yards. However, one of his teammates did not believe he was deserving of the award, and let us all know. Antonio Brown tweeted, "Emotion. Boy fumbled the whole postseason in the biggest game of the year. Everyone went blind to busy making guys famous, not enough reality these days. By the way, check the list." Then JuJu responded with this: "All I ever did was show that man love and respect from the moment I got to the league. I was genuinely happy for him too when he got traded to Oakland with a big contract, and now he takes shots at me on social media?" However, before the start of the next season, the two were no longer teammates, as the disgruntled Brown was traded to the Raiders in the spring of 2019. The upcoming season was now set to be the most challenging in JuJu's career thus far. Gone was the all-pro receiver who would line up alongside JuJu and draw double coverage. Now, all the attention that opposing defenses were giving AB would be directed to the 22-year-old JuJu. Things got even harder for the new #1 wideout when starting quarterback Ben Roethlisberger went down with a season-ending injury in week 2. So now JuJu was catching passes from the inexperienced Mason Rudolph and Devlin Duck Hodges. I mean, I totally forgot about Duck Hodges. Anyone remember that little run there, that little mini Linsanity run for a few weeks there? Then in the Thursday night football game where Myles Garrett infamously swung Mason Rudolph's helmet at his head, JuJu was knocked out after a helmet-to-helmet hit, which sidelined him for a few games along with another knee injury. In the 12 games he played in 2019, Smith-Schuster had just 552 receiving yards and 3 touchdowns. But things only got worse for JuJu from here. The Steelers wide receiver core looked deep heading into 2020, with rookie Chase Claypool, Deontay Johnson, and of course JuJu. Smith-Schuster looked like he was back to himself in the Steelers' Week 1 win versus the Giants, catching 6 passes for 69 yards and 2 touchdowns. But after that game, his numbers on the field slowly started to decline. But it wasn't a huge deal because the Steelers started the season 11-0. However, while JuJu's presence on the field was dwindling, his presence on TikTok was increasing. The wide receiver was posting tons of dance videos and even recorded himself multiple times dancing on opponents' logos during pregame warm-ups. This put a target on his back, and teams used it as fuel to beat the Steelers. Josh Allen even admitted he included JuJu dancing on the Bills logo as part of his pregame speech to the team. The once fan-favorite receiver was now turning into a villain, but this was just the beginning of his downfall. After a Week 14 loss, JuJu finally came out and said he was putting an end to his logo dancing videos for the betterment of the team. But even years after the videos were posted, JuJu was still being called TikTok boy by fellow players. Heading into the playoffs, the 3-seed Steelers were set to host their 6-seed division rival Browns. Before the game, JuJu made headlines for all the wrong reasons yet again for saying this.
Nah, I think they're still the same Browns team I play every year. I think they're nameless, great faces.
Just like with the logo dances, JuJu was giving the opposing team more fuel yet again. The Browns ran with his bulletin board material and ended up crushing the Steelers 48-37. A garbage time touchdown really made this game look a lot closer than it actually was. JuJu finished the 2020 season with 831 yards and 9 touchdowns. The wide receiver was now a free agent, but after receiving larger offers from other teams, he decided to sign a 1-year deal at a cheaper price to stay with the Steelers. During the first 4 weeks of the 2021 season, JuJu barely averaged 30 yards per game. Then in week 5, he suffered a shoulder injury that required surgery, and he was ruled out for the remainder of the regular season. Despite the diagnosis, he battled his way through rehab and suited up for the team's wildcard game versus the Chiefs. JuJu had just 26 receiving yards in the team's blowout loss. After the season ended, the wide receiver was a free agent yet again, but this time he decided to sign where the money was and joined the Chiefs on a 1-year deal. After injuring his knee during the preseason, JuJu played all but 1 game for the Chiefs in 2022. He became the team's #1 wideout after the departure of Tyreek Hill. JuJu finished the regular season with 933 yards and 3 touchdowns, but he made his biggest impact during the playoffs. Well, specifically the Super Bowl. In the big game, JuJu hauled in 7 receptions for 53 yards and drew the game-winning holding call late in the 4th quarter. Despite winning a Super Bowl with the Chiefs, free agent JuJu decided to sign a 3-year deal with the Patriots in 2023. However, after signing with New England, bad news started to surface regarding Smith-Schuster. The previous season, JuJu left the AFC Championship game with a knee injury. The knee had actually been bothering him in practice the week leading up to the game, but once he was in the game Sunday, it just got worse. He said that after the AFC Championship game, he couldn't even walk. And during the offseason, he underwent a cleanup surgery on his knee due to some swelling. Prior to the start of the 2023 season, Albert Breer said this about JuJu's knee.
JuJu Smith-Schuster's knee is a mess. And that thing could explode at any point.
Smith-Schuster denied these claims and said his knee was actually getting better every day. But throughout the first 5 weeks of the 2023 season, the wide receiver looked like a shell of his former self, averaging just 17 yards per game. After suffering a concussion, JuJu was left on the bench once healthy. In the 11 games he played in 2023, Smith-Schuster had just 260 receiving yards and 1 touchdown. Watching JuJu play in New England, it was clear he lost a step, or maybe actually a few steps. His explosiveness just seemed totally gone. And it's even more sad to see him like this because he's just 27 years old. I mean, Tyreek Hill and Stephon Diggs are 30. Deebo Samuel is 28. DJ Moore is 27. AJ Brown is about to turn 27. And all these guys are still putting up fantastic numbers. Yes, the TikTok dances were a distraction and definitely didn't help his play on the field. But his knee? That's the thing that truly ruined his once very promising career. If you enjoyed this video, you'll definitely love this video uncovering the truth behind the rise and fall of Mitch Trubisky.